before we could start. We are still expecting a couple more of them to come in. Let me quickly say that this meeting is going to be basically a working meeting, in the sense that we are going to be discussing technical and legal issues relating to copyright as it affects the information and communication technology industry. As you are aware, the Commission commenced a process of reform of the copyright system. And this reform system, and we want to carry along all our stakeholders to us because of the meeting, this meeting. I do also hope that you interact with the reform website, download the ones artificial and mutually rewarding the program. At this point in time, the rate of the persons that are seated right here, General of the Nigerian Copyright Commission, is also the leading in the initiative of the actually achieve what we have done in the last 20 years of our system. So we are going to begin the reform of the Nigerian copyright system. And people, the stakeholders have Fumi Arewa. Professor Fumi Arewa is the lady sitting there.
My name is Shoaib Sani, Information Technology Division, Keystone Bank.
Nigerian Copyright Commission.
Hi, Brian Williams from the U.S. Embassy here in Abuja.
Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Reporter.
Nigerian Air Force.
Incommodore is the Director in charge of Information Technology in Nigerian Air Force.
The computer programmer.
My name is Samuel Daniel. I work with Federal Ministry of Information, Web Administrator.
My name is Abna from Federal Ministry of Information.
My name is Jimmy Oyetomi. I'm a Deputy Director of Information Technology Departments.
Staff of Technology Management.
My name is Ian County from Microsoft National Technology Officer.
O2, Minister of Communication Technology.
My name is Jose Olani, Assistant Director of Police and Crime, Ministry of Communication Technology.
So I run IT Department, Central Bank of Nigeria.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Henry Kamadu from the Nigerian Communications Commission.
My name is Aderoke Adeni from Nigerian Communications Commission.
NCA International.
My name is Fatima Mohammed, Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, Computer Analyst.
Science and Technology, Chief Scientific Officer, ICT.
Mohamed Bala, Information Technology, First Bank. West, I'm with the Punch.
I'm Nick Patricia, International.
This is John Aso, I report with the Daily Trust, Noah Judiciary.
Good morning, all. My name is Mary Ruduma, Nigerian Internet Registration Association.
My name is Kofi Fabrice Josu. I do work for Uniforum as Vezeli Central Registry, based in South Africa. And last year, the African Union have mandated my company to run the South Africa top-level domain in order to bring African businesses, African intellectual property right owners on the internet.
My name is Stilo Wonder. I work for Phase 3 Telecom.
Part of the group from NCC organizing this forum.
My name is Ola Nishala Olaobi. I work in Nigerian Copyright Commission.
My name is Victoria Balola from Nigerian Copyright Commission.
and as my Deputy Director rightly said, the Nigerian Copyright Commission has obviously done a lot while I have been at the helm of affairs. Nigeria's creative industries for greater growth and competitiveness. The goals of the reform process therefore include to update and upgrade the Copyright Act for the digital age, to facilitate new innovation and new models of access to knowledge, to encourage and reward new forms of creativity, to enable Nigeria's creative and cultural industries to adapt and leverage new technological platforms for distribution and enforcement of rights in global markets, and to improve the system of copyright administration. As a follow-up to that official launch, we lined up a number of consultative meetings with the various sectors of the copyright industries. The consultations takes cognizance of the different segments of copyright stakeholders with diverse and sometimes competing interests. We intend to use these consultations to understand the priorities and concerns of stakeholders and reconcile the various interests within the comprehensive emerging framework of our new copyright regime. Today's exercise with the ICT industry stakeholders is the third of such consultative meetings. Similar exercises have already been held with the music and broadcasting industries. The outcome of the consultations so far have been very encouraging, as very useful input has been garnered from the ensuing work of the expert working group of the reform process. In the coming days and weeks, we will be meeting with the users, public interest and academic institutions, stakeholders, literary and publishing industry, film industry and government institutions. We consider these meetings critical to the success of the reform exercise, as we wish the reform process to be driven by current experiences and realities in the various sectors of the creative industry in Nigeria. The expert working group of the reform process, which is made up of both staff of the Commission and some renowned experts in intellectual property, has come up with a number of questions for discussions at this forum. While the questions are meant to provide a general focus for the anticipated discussions, the consultations will not be confined to them. Stakeholders are invited and strongly encouraged to bring up additional and or different issues during the course of this meeting. I also wish to state that inputs from stakeholders are not limited to these formal discussions, as we welcome additional comments throughout the duration of the reform process. This is why the Commission has created a dedicated website to facilitate constant interaction with its stakeholders and a feedback process for the reform process. I encourage you all to visit both this dedicated website and our official website regularly, as we will endeavour to keep you posted on the activities regarding the reform process on the two platforms. The copyright regime that responds to identified needs and priorities of all copyright stakeholders, consistent with the public interest, national objectives and the key goals of the copyright system. I thank you once again for your attendance and solicit your cooperation in making the forum fruitful and successful. Thank you very much.
The exercise of today, but we want the professional put us all on the same page.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today in the context of the ICT business in Africa. Prior to becoming a law professor, I practiced law for a number of years with a focus on technology startup companies. I worked inside technology companies and at a venture capital firm, primarily in the Silicon Valley, New York, and Boston. As such, the ICT industries are a core research and personal focus for me. The consultations today with representatives of the ICT industries are part of a series of consultations as the DG noted in his remarks, these consultations have been undertaken with various stakeholders and groups with an interest in copyright. This process of consultation will involve both meetings and interactions through the Copyright Reform website and in the near future social media platforms. The goal of the expert working group consultation process is to engage stakeholders with the view of identifying the most suitable means of advancing the interest of Nigeria's copyright and ICT industries, as well as to create sustainable copyright frameworks that enhance Nigerian society and Nigeria's economic development. The principal objective at this stage of the reform effort is the preparation of a copyright reform bill that reflects the unique characteristics of Nigeria's ICT and cultural sectors. I want to first say a few words about the broader context within which Nigeria's copyright reform process is occurring. Nigeria starts copyright reform in a broader global context where other developing countries have undertaken reform efforts. These reforms have come out of widespread recognition of the inadequacies of existing copyright frameworks that remain based on the assumptions of a pre-digital world that now confront a broad array of digital era technologies, particularly a lot of ICT technologies. Copyright has become a key marker of worldwide economic and business success for both countries and firms. Nigeria thus joins the company of China, India, and Brazil in undertaking comprehensive copyright reform and becomes the leading country in Africa to undertake such reform. Nigeria joins leading nations of the world in undertaking comprehensive copyright reform. This reform effort takes place in a broader policy environment in Nigeria that has included the development of a draft national ICT policy that will likely play a dominant role in the future development of ICT industries in Nigeria. I will now briefly discuss the goals of copyright reform in the context of the ICT sector. As a recent 2012 United Nations report notes, ICTs permeate societies at all levels of development and activity. As a result of the growth of ICTs, for example, development of software capacity has become increasingly important, as has innovations in the software sector. The ICT and software sectors are also potential avenues for development and economic growth for developing countries. As the UN notes in its 2012 report, the software sector itself is also an area that holds potential for technological upgrading in low-income countries. In some developing countries such as India, Argentina, Brazil, China, Costa Rica, and South Africa, the software sector has grown significantly in recent years, generating new opportunities. In our consultations today, we seek to obtain greater understanding of the concerns and copyright needs of the Nigerian ICT industries. We also hope to gain understanding of the impact of copyright on ICT industry firms. In the end, the feedback we receive from you will be considered in the copyright reform process and will form an important piece of the broader fabric of the copyright experience in Nigerian industries, firms, and people. We look forward to hearing the views of sector participants in person today, as well as through the Copyright Reform website. We will listen and take account of your views. If you do not have the opportunity to give comments today or know of others that are not in attendance that would like to give us input, please be aware that comments may also be submitted through the Copyright Reform website. That's www.copyrightreform.org, www.copyrightreform.org. We also encourage you to visit the Copyright Reform website periodically to get information and updates about Nigeria's copyright reform process. Thank you.
Only recently, a friend sent me a story. We see how people are getting and the people from NCC go, I think the internet penetration percentage because of region. I'm sure now with the growth of that, with the facility to access internet and others would have grown above 50%. For their regeneration, for their circulation, and see how we can upgrade it and bring it in line with the reality of this dialogue. It's not going to be an all-formal affair. We're going to be conducted to the questions we have formulated. You have the forum.
During the time of introduction, I was very happy because critical sectors of ICT people are here. You are the industry, and you know more than us. And so that is why whatever inputs that we get from you go a long way in reforming our copyright system. As the DG has said, it's a sectorial briefing. We have done that. We have done some in Lagos, And here in Abuja, we are doing this one, and we are still going to other geographical parts of the country to have a very robust inputs from stakeholders and industry players. So that's it's going to be very interactive. Whatever inputs you are going to make, please let it be articulated, straight to the point, so that at the end of the day we can have something to lay our hand on. The fourth thing we have to do, we have to deal with the general questions. The general question, there are 5 here. It's not going to be in a particular order. You can just do generally, that's the 4 to 5. It will be taken in no particular order. But area you feel that you will have some discussions on and you want to share, please let us just put those inputs forward. That's just for this particular one. By the time we go to the specific area, we know exactly what to do. So if you want to have an input, if you raise up your hand, we'll call you, you let us know where you represent, the industry you represent, then we can make your contributions. If there are any other things, we will let you know.
Good morning once again. My name is Jimmy Deputy Director of Information, Federal Ministry of Information, in charge of the information technology. Only yesterday, the hard copy took a long time before the thing could boot and then open. And then when we are now asked to access those questions that we have here now, it took ages. It was not even opening. I had to write a letter to the EWG. They now made a reply. I saw the reply this morning, and I quickly asked my lieutenant to get it printed so that the third person can see it. Even the third person only got to see it in this place. So we only had a few minutes for us to go through it and exchange experiences here in this hall. So I think the EWG should do something, or the NCC should do something to ensure that the server is working faster than, and then the thing can load faster than we had it there. Thank you. Deputy Director of Information, Federal Ministry of Information, IT Department. Our own industry is a government information management industry, and we have copyrights existing on some of our publications, which exist in hard copy as well as soft copy, internet-based resources. We publish a website too, and possibly we have data storage forms of, we have data in form of DVDs, VCDs, etc., etc. Some of these are generated or produced by Federal Ministry of Information, and some are produced by contractors or consultants from Federal Ministry of Information. Nevertheless, copyrights subsist on them, and they are owned by Federal Ministry of Information. However, we have noted that users use some of our data, most times without recourse to Federal Ministry of Information, since they assume that Federal Ministry of Information is a government agency which publishes such government information, and I have already put such information in a public domain. Secondly, we noted that only once I've been involved in managing a website of several websites published by Federal Ministry of Information for about 14 years of my 21 years of work experience in Ministry of Information. And we noted that only once was a user making recourse to us, and it was a foreign-based organization which requested to use some photographs which we published on the image gallery section of the Federal Ministry of Information website for their journal. They made reference to us, and we really didn't make any issue out of it. We allowed them to use it, and then we just told them that they should please credit us. Because number one, to generate most of our contents, we have officers, which are the payroll of Federal Ministry of Information, which are sent out as resident information officers to most NDAs, and also photographers and video cameramen. And they generate these raw data, send it to us, and then we package them properly, and then we made reference to them in terms of having copyright seals on them. Then we also, as users of information materials, we use other people's materials, and we believe that people have rights over such materials, and some organizations as well. We avoid violating other people's rights. That I can assure you. For example, the pictures and images, we have experts in-house. Mr. Ayan here, Mr. Samuel Ayan is our officer in charge of the website administration and some other issues. He is a well-versed officer in that regard. He usually points out certain pitfalls that we need to avoid so that we don't have any issue with others, and we take him very seriously on that. For example, he has told, in any case, we in FMI will generate a lot of. In 2001, that ICT was introduced to Federal Ministry of Information, Nigeria, when we had the IT units. Later, it became IT.
Administration Association, managers of .ng. I'm representing the organization here. And from our own industry, which is the domain name industry, that is where Copyright Commission should also focus and point searchlight on, because we have cyber spotting in that industry. We have phishing, people stealing other people's domain name, because domain name is a copyright. You take your name, we register your name for you, and some are just, they are waiting. First they will copy your website and replicate your website and do all sorts of atrocities from replicating your website. Some people have been duped by those copied websites. Secondly, there is phishing. We call it phishing, where you register your domain name, and by the time your domain name is about to expire, somebody is by the corner to take your domain name and then hold it and say, come and pay me before I release your domain name for you. We also have predators, those that register domain name in speculation.
I'm people with 1 minute to ask a question. Why don't you use that for those kinds of things?
Yeah, we have policy on domain name dispute resolution.
So what specifically, from a copyright perspective, what specifically is would you look for in copyright as opposed to trademark?
Replicated and copied.
Because I think some of these issues, it's not clear to me how we would address them in copyright. I think clearly they should be addressed, but they traditionally, thus far, are not typically addressed from a copyright perspective. But perhaps we can talk about that and we can get more understanding of what you're looking for.
Minister of Information has already said that. I think it's a copyright issue.
To the extent that it's copyright protected material, it's an issue for copyright. If it's not copyright protected material, then may not be a whole lot that can be done about it. But that's definitely something we really need to take a look at. Thank you.
I apologize for coming late, so I'm sorry if I'm going to repeat what other people are saying before now. My name is Larry Ajayi. I'm the president of the Association of Telecommunication Companies of Nigeria, ATCO. My major issues or concern about the copyright is in relation to online activities, some of which Madam Yuri Juma mentioned. I want to believe that our existing laws did a lot in respect to physical concerns about brand owners in the physical realm. But I also believe that in the cyberspace, online activities, I'm not sure if our laws did cover those areas. And I'm of the opinion, I believe very strongly, that majority of activities of brand owners are going to move online. Quite soon, I believe more than 80% of activities are going to really move online. So my concern is, how do we protect these brand owners to ensure that people don't lose their brand in cyberspace? And I want to believe that that is what Madam Duma is trying to express worries about, and I share our worries. Whatever law we are putting in place now should put a lot of emphasis in that, because most activities of brand owners are going to move really online. Presently, we can commit a lot of crime online by stealing people's brands, and you get away with it because there's no law that says you cannot, at least in Nigeria, to the best of my knowledge. So I want to encourage us to look into this. There's a whole lot of knowledge base in that area already, created in some other territories, in some other economy. I want to encourage people from the Nigerian Copyright Commission to exploit and explore those areas. And I want to also recommend that you pay a lot of attention to the activities of ICANN, Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, of which Mrs. Uduma was the government representative at the time she was still in NCC. A whole lot of issues, a whole lot of knowledge is available in there. They hold meetings around the world 3 times a year. I want to encourage you to attend those meetings. The next one is in China. The one after China is in South Africa. If you don't attend those meetings, you won't understand the issues of copyright as it affects activity online. So those are my submissions. If after listening to other people, we want to chip in, but for now, because I came late, I couldn't comment more than that. Thank you very much.
With regards to the general questions, I think I'll focus right now on the third and the fourth. I'll probably just address them together. The risk and challenges we see when it relates to copyright is obviously we necessarily sell software and we make that available for end users to consume. Most times when the rights or genuine software obviously is not procured, obviously people then are subject to issues of attack, cybercrime, attacks and all. So one of the greatest challenges we have really right now is the issue of piracy. And if there was one area of focus that we would be interested in out of all of this, is how do we actually address the issue of piracy. Piracy for us is as high as 80% of consumption of our products right now locally. And so if there's any takeout that we want out of this, is how to actually address the issue of piracy. And that will probably start to talk to the issues of how do you truly enforce when you even do have those laws. Parallel in the market there, you can actually get a lot of our solutions for almost next to nothing. And what then happens is that people then end up being victims of actually getting software that are not genuine. The other point to also drop at this point in time is it's nice that we talked about the fact that we recognize that things are changing. Part of the discourse which we would probably also want to take out of here, particularly since we've said we would have an opportunity to have other forums to also still engage, either to respond more holistically, is the issue of the fact that even the model of licensing software, a lot of this is changing. Again, because of changes in business model, a lot of it with changes in technology. So for example, traditionally people would have consumed software maybe through traditional media like CDs and all. But obviously software consumption is moving into the cloud. We need to obviously be able to recognize that when we're doing the reform, to understand or address the changing ways in which technology is being consumed and ensure that rights obviously are being maintained and transferred appropriately. I think those are the initial comments I will have, and we can still talk more.
Legislation specifically to address some of those concerns? Because I think this is the universal concern in the digital era, a number of the issues you expressed. I would be curious, as someone in the industry, in the software industry, what would you like to see in the legislation?
Because I also have consultations that I'm having with my LCA team, the legal team, and I think what we want to actually do is to also come with a proper response in terms of the kind of suggestions we would like to see. So I'll be very careful to...
I conclude once again. Maybe I should start on a lighter note. I told somebody to download this for me from NCC site, and he went to the other NCC, so I wouldn't know which one is that's Nigerian Communication Commission and Nigerian Copyright Commission, so I wouldn't know which is it. So they said that nature of our own work, we are supposed to talk less and listen more, and that's why we have one mouth, 2 eyes, and 2 ears. I'll go to specific in the questions is how have new technologies enhanced disrupted and transformed the industry. Talking specifically about IT industry now and the military or Air Force in particular, it has really transformed the industry from large armies to smart and compact military. And the Air Force in particular, we've engaged in production of so many things, one of which is the unmanned aerial vehicle, which is what is in vogue now in terms of surveillance systems, and that's unpiloted vehicles, that's planes, let me just put it in terms that we understand, planes that are not manned. And these are powered by software, codes and things like that, and we are engaged in research. We have an Air Force Institute of Technology. We have done 1 or 2 things, but the concern here in terms of copyright is we work with others in the academia and things like that, and maybe the law as it is now, or if you need to be modified, so that when such people that you have engaged in developing some of these platforms will not, disseminate. I could see something down the line as to employees, stroke employers, dissemination of information. So these are areas of concern. And if you look back at what is happening now in terms of bombs and nuclear activities, for those who are familiar with the military, some have claimed that it could be traced back to the disintegration of the Soviet Union, where these things were kept secret before, but now people look for money and they can easily sell this technology. So we are looking at a situation where this technology that we are indigenously trying to also develop in our own industry or in our own organization, the software, because the airframe is not really the problem, but the software that drives the cameras and the UAVs and then pilot the vehicle and things like that that are developed will not get into, so that the laws will cover something. I don't know whether you get an answer. Thank you.
We're also developing the hardware, and you're just looking to it's copyright because of the software, but I'm curious to know how you protect the hardware.
Initially, we developed Amebo, and we call it Amebo, that's a Nigerian code name. And Amebo 2, but we are going into our own, because we have copyright issues, we were trying to make noise about it to show that we've done something, but it drew our attention to the MOU and issue of copyright. Okay? So we are going on our own now, developing the whole thing, and it's gone far, we've done the frame and so many other stuff. But we are developing up to the code level. It will be a total Nigerian thing.
Both the hardware and software.
Hardware and software.
And how are you protecting the hardware?
What?
From an intellectual property.
Let me be on there. Thank you.
Subject to copyright protection, including what the last speaker just said by way of the development of software. We just want to give the instances where there are infringements and what actions could have been taken. Probably not necessarily in terms of infringement, but other practical measures that have been taken to forestall infringements. Can we have interventions in that direction, please?
Having a newsletter called Logon, and there's this media house who believed that the word Logon is its own brand. It's an IT reporter, and he wrote NCS, Nigerian Commercial Society, to complain that they are infringing on its own brand by using Logon as the name of their newsletter. NCS also believed that he has a right to that word. There was no agreement, and the guy went to court. And the case was in court for a long time. But I can't tell you the outcome of that litigation. So that's just an example I remember.
Usual protection of brands, logos, and so on slightly fall outside the realm of copyright. I think we will address that at some point. But it will be interesting to see how best we will be dynamic about it, and that's why the process, if you could let us have some more specifics for these cases. So having said that, we need to move on with the other issues, the general questions. If there are no more general interventions, we will be moving towards the specific questions.
And we shall continue to upscale our enforcement interventions, and our prosecutory activities sector falls within the issues related to copyright within the ICT sector. So this is a reform of the entire Nigerian copyright system. Okay, and what informed this is because of obviously the move to technological age. We've obviously got to bring our current Copyright Act in line with the realities of today. We live in a world of technology, in a knowledge-driven world, and we cannot obviously remain behind the times. Hence, we decided to institute this process of reform in order to bring our copyright legislation in line with the current trends.
Okay, how about crime on the internet? Because I heard a while ago somebody was talking about having strong laws, you know.
Yes, as I said, that's the whole point of this reform process, is to obviously strengthen our copyright framework, okay, to include online piracy. There are a lot of instances where we're going to move away from the physical infringements in terms of the people you see in Alaba markets, and a lot of these things is actually going to be done online. So we have to obviously bring our current framework, which is inadequate in that respect, in line with the realities of today.
Thank you very much.
And actually, we need to address that issue very cautiously. What I mean, because when you talk about copyright, especially in ICT, you talk about contents, you talk about tools, and copyright need to protect all those people involved in ICT, people who are driving content, people who are, let's say, using tools to promote their business in order to get them on board and then protect their own business and then get advantage of their innovation and creation. So copyrights need to be addressed carefully and then used as a tool, as a vehicle to drive innovation, to protect innovation. That's exactly what we need to think about.
Thank you very much.
Isn't an effective mechanism for the digital age. So our goal is to bring Nigeria's copyright system into the digital age that recognizes the information and communications technology revolution that's occurred in the last 30 or 40 years. So to make Nigeria's copyright truly a thing of the 21st century means to recognize the new technologies that have come into force in the last 20 years and to really understand the importance of those new technologies and the impact of those new technologies for copyright.
So you think with the technology now, the new technology, according to someone that said that Piracy is on the high side, 80%, over 80%. So that new technology can now reduce it or what?
Well, I'm talking more about from a broader policy perspective, thinking about copyright has to deal with how do you address issues like piracy in the context of, he mentioned in the context of the cloud, which didn't exist 20 years ago, right? We didn't have a cloud. When we thought about clouds, it was weather. Right now, when we talk about the cloud, we mean something related to the internet. So how should copyright deal with with issues connected to the cloud, be it piracy or other issues connected to the development of cloud technologies.
Thank you very much.
Obviously a big issue, and I think, excuse me, copyright infringement in Africa is a big issue. I think one of the goals of copyright reform would be to have a copyright law that provides a good sustained basis for copyright enforcement in the future. Also, one of the goals of copyright reform is to ensure that Nigeria has a truly modern copyright legislation that can enable Nigeria to harness the true, its full creative and innovative potential. So copyright can be a real mechanism for growth and economic development. I think a recent UN report that used the Nigerian software industry as a case study noted that countries can use software and information communication technology to leverage growth and economic development and to provide employment opportunities for people within the country. So we see copyright as being a key aspect of Nigeria's continued economic growth and development, and also a major potential to be a major source of job opportunities for Nigerians.
Thank you very much.
World intellectual property, right? Copyright covers creative and advertising activities, music, film, publishing, software. Those are all things that are typically protected by copyright. Issues related to brand and logos and trademark names are typically dealt with in trademark law. We are just at this point reforming copyright law. That's not to say there's not a need for reform in other areas of intellectual property. But the Nigerian Copyright Commission primarily deals with copyright. So we can't, even though we're aware that there may be some needs in other areas with respect to trademark or even patent, we're focusing on copyright. Now, domain names are typically come in legally. Of course, these are legal, they didn't exist when trademark laws were created. Typically, domain name legal regimes are more closely related to trademark copyright. And the UDRP, which we talked about, is the uniform domain name dispute resolution system, which is basically a way, just a way to deal with domain name disputes. But today, we're just going to focus on issues related to copyright. So to the extent trademark issues come up, we'll take them to the road, but they are part of the reform process.
The other aspects of intellectual property laws in Nigeria, which includes the trademark law, the Trademark Act, the Patent and Designs Act, and there are emerging areas of intellectual property that are also being considered under the new reforms. I'm aware that there is an Industrial Property Act, bill, which is currently before the National Assembly. And those of you who are interested, some of the issues that are being also discussed on that platform includes the issue of domain name, cyber squatting, and other larger issues that also are keying into the new technological platforms. So it's not as if Nigeria is not conscious of these issues. They are all there and they are running parallel. The only thing that you would say in the Nigerian context is that the copyright regime is having a different administrative organ from the other intellectual property rights. In Nigeria currently there are about 3 organizations that share responsibility for intellectual property administration, and that is Nigerian Copyright Commission, the Patent and Trademarks Registry, and of course to some degree the National Office of Technology Acquisition and Promotion, that's NOTA. They're coming in terms of the issues you have discussed, promotion of innovations and creativity in these areas, particularly in the technological areas, and they have been doing a wonderful job of promotion, which is where everybody is saying that the issue of software development may bear more on promotional activities. I think that sits well with NOTA. Globally, there are 2 models. Some countries have a single IP administration, while other countries choose to have a 2-pronged approach. Predominance of the countries in the world operate what Nigeria operates, where you have copyright separate from IP. There are both legal and other considerations for this, but there are also countries that have a unified structure of administration. But invariably, in most countries, you are going to have trademark law, which is different from a copyright law. That includes the way it runs in America, in the UK, and other developed countries. So can we move on with other interventions?
I want to paint. I don't know whether it's against copyright or... I'll just paint it as it is. It's not a fiction, but it's a true thing that is happening. In Nigeria, replicated the Nigerian Army website and tied it to a link where is selling forms for recruitment, for instance. Is it, does the copyright law, I mean, since we don't have the cyber security law now, what punishment if such person is fished out? What, apart from the normal law, is there any serious punishment to deter others against such things in the new law? And then software development, I don't believe that we don't have the capacity. I think possibly, just like one of the speakers said, which is a general thing, the educational, the teaching methods and aids in our institutions is one of those things. And then, because I've seen a lot, there are one of these, is it ISPON or software development, one of the associations, and they do exhibition every year in the Muzan Center in Lagos. We have a lot of applications that are being developed by Nigerians in the banking industry, even for military, for other industries, HR and things like that. Maybe they are not, I don't know what it takes to register to compete with the ones that have been developed from India and some other countries. Maybe we should look into that too. And I think the Ministry of Communication Tech has also come up to address such issues. I know there's a competition going on for youths. NIDA too has come up with IT parks and things like that. These are just in terms of information, just to respond to what has been done. So I'm just saying this to say that we have the capacity. Because if you see the letters from this 419, if they use those intelligence to go into things like software development, I think we will excel. Thank you.
With regard to this question 3, as for the local developers we have, to make them at least to excel, maybe this law should cover for any software that we are acquiring in the country. Let them have a local partner that will now work hand in hand with the other people. So at least they will continue to support and later they will excel on the site. That's what I'm advising.
I would like to take specifically on just 3 issues. The first one being to add voice to the fact that there is quite a lot of local capacity. If we look at what we talked about in the question number 15, which is under the section 10 of the copyright law, that if a computer program developed by an employee in the course of his or her employment initially vests in the employee unless otherwise stipulated in the employment contract. From what we have been discussing here, a lot of people have been trained by different companies. And some of these people, because the law also vests that authority for them to move away, the knowledge is there. They also go around and go about and work in private establishment or establish their own companies and continue to develop software. What we will be talking about here, as my colleague from the Ministry of Communications Technology has said, is to aggregate or encourage these people to further develop additional software for the industry, and not to say that we don't have capacity at all. Then question 16, do Nigerian ICT industries have the potential to be significant contributors in Nigerian overall economic profile? I think that question, the answer is a resounding yes, because
software. But the station where majority of the software that we are deploying in the various sectors are mostly foreign, Microsoft, Oracle, and so on. So if we have locally, let us be aware so that when there's the form, we can ask them as they are using the foreign software to also use the indigenous software. Let us be aware. There's the partnering of maybe Nigerian software developers with foreign assessors. Local is already doing that. What happens is that when our Nigerian industrialists, when they license the foreign software on a yearly basis, apart from paying for the software, they also ask for annual technical support on a yearly basis. And what Local normally encourage them to do is to ensure that there is an indigenous software developer that is attached to the foreign licensor that can carry out the annual technical support services, technical services. And we ensure that at least 40% of the annual technical support fee is paid to that Nigerian software developer. So we have been doing that. And if they don't, Local doesn't approve the licensing of such agreements. Thank you.
Foreign software. Usually it does the job better. It's been tested to certain standards. There is support. There are bug fixes. Now, I really spoke with the First Bank of Nigeria. Which bank would take indigenous software to use to run its customer accounts? Software that has not been tested and tried. Let me come back to to us as individuals. If you have the option of getting Microsoft Word and using indigenous developed in Nigeria software to do your normal word processing, which would you prefer? You would go for Microsoft Word because you know the pedigree of that software. That being said, I believe that capacity does exist in Nigeria, but capacity is beyond the intellectual or mental capacity. Capacity involves the support structures that are there to assure quality. Now, if we want the indigenous software market to be well developed in Nigeria, I believe that there are things that can be done, even through the Copyright Act. If, for instance, we ensure that there is quality built in to everything IT that is indigenously developed before it can be registered, then we will help our people. Now, companies as large as Microsoft release major software that has a lot of flaws in them. That's why they release patches after a while. But we tend to trust that software when it comes out because we know that those patches will be developed and released. We had a case where we had to consider someone that had a software that came up, and we asked, when was it developed? The person didn't know. When is the next upgrade? He didn't know. Ongoing support, maintenance, there was no answer. So how would a company invest in something like that for a critical area? And then also, I think when we want to encourage Nigerians to develop something that is homegrown, it may be an exercise in futility to go into already established markets where you already have software giants. But I do not believe that software applications have been developed for every possible scenario. There are areas that we do not have solutions right now. And I think we would get more opportunities to actually grow businesses if we explore what those areas are and then channel our efforts to those areas. And then finally, I think that for a software developer, it might not seem to be realistic, but I think if you get a financial advisor and you work through the scenarios and do business model, you see how viable it is. One of the best ways to get your software widely accepted is to offer it free. That's what is done worldwide. A basic version, push it out. Schools need software they cannot afford to pay for. Develop something, give it out free to schools. Let them use it, test it, develop it, and then you will now be able to package a more commercial
can't solve all business problems in any industry. Many of the issues we're talking about today relate to, for instance, capacity and the other associated concept that I think we do is competitiveness. Because even if there isn't capacity in Nigeria, the question is, do you have an industry that's globally competitive? And that's, given that you have other options, that's obviously the issue. But the broader infrastructure relating to ICTs that might promote the development of software and ICT Obviously, copyright can only go so far. Our goal in the copyright reform process is to provide a best-in-world context, at least from a copyright perspective, for the development of the ICT sector. Obviously, it will require a lot more than copyright to have Nigeria move to the forefront of ICT development from a global and African perspective. But thank you for that comment.
When we were to go into production of UAVs, for those who have been following military developments, the US have been using UAVs in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, and things like that. We have the option of...
Tell us what they are, what a UAV is.
Oh, unmanned aerial vehicles. Unmanned aerial vehicles.
Thank you.
Like airplanes that have no pilots.
Exactly.
Okay, the option could be that we could continue buying from the developed world and remain the way we are. We also have the option of buying from them and also starting something. I also read somewhere Japanese cars, there were cars, Ford and all those cars in the US, but when they started their own, those ones were still there. And today, they are where they are. So my belief is that, yes, and also let me also seize the opportunity to differentiate certain sort of software. Like Microsoft, we're not talking in terms of particular, I'm talking about application software that picks particular problem and solve them.
Consultative exercises. We will have to bring this session to a formal close, and then I want to use this opportunity to thank you all for coming. I may not be able to singularly thank all of you individually because of the long list, but I want to thank you generally that the Commission appreciates you are coming for this exercise. We look forward to receiving your further input and other interaction. Please, when we call on you in the future, do not hesitate to come around because this is likely to be a marathon for us. Let me also use this opportunity to thank the member of the expert working group, Professor Arewa, who flew down from the US and arrived just this morning, and she has been tireless working on this project. She's here again today. Prof, we are very grateful for your coming around and for your efforts so far. I thank the other members of the EWG working on this project for their efforts. I thank all of us, the journalists who have been here to cover us this event. I'm sure they will report us positively. I want to thank the coordinator, and on this note, I would like to hand over the microphone to the coordinator of the session, who also stands in for the Director General, to do the wrap up. Please lodge itself right behind us.
It has already been said. We thank you for your contributions and interventions. If there are other inputs, please we implore you to send it to our website. This will seriously improve whatever things that we want to put in the form of the Copyright Act. So once again, we thank you for your patience, we thank you for contributions, and we thank you. Have a nice day and wish you good luck and have Johnny Masses right by you. Thank you.